To the Abandoned Sacred Beast is now 2/3 of the way through its first season, and I have to say, I am just really impressed about the direction that this series decided to take. It would have been so easy for a character like Nancy and just a lot of the plot elements to just fail and feel very cliche, and we just compare it to other anime that we've seen. Nancy is a character that I've been pretty much complimenting since, honestly, like her second episode. She felt like a character who naturally went against our main character Hank, had a reason for going against our main character Hank and not just wanting to kill because she wasn't naturally a part of his world. But she very quickly, but at a steady and realistic pace, understood that Hank wasn't some mindless killer, and understood that when an incarnate has to be put down, it's not him being a cold and ruthless killer, it's him having to do something very painful, and he is a human at the end of the day. But she never gave up on her idea that every incarnate should have a chance to see, do they really have to be killed, because Hank himself doesn't have to be killed yet. So why does everyone just have to have their heads blown off by Hank? And this episode is just payoff for her mentality. She wasn't someone who stayed clueless or someone who didn't grow. She did. But this episode with the siren, we see that her mentality was right all along, and she was incredibly important to tag along with someone like Hank up to this point. The fact that we have a siren just living secluded from everyone, just wanting to sing in front of people and really poses no threat to anyone other than maybe people who kind of stumble upon her, because then the bar owner that was friends and probably wanted to be romantically involved with her would kill them. But besides that, she really wasn't a threat. You could look at her the same way you would look at someone like Hank up to the point that he transformed and kind of ran off and kind of started to rampage and things like that. And that's what I love, is it feels like a character like Nancy, who we've seen in plenty of stories before, who just stays, I'm going to go against the main character because he's killing and it's wrong. It's like, yeah, you're right, but you're not growing. If you're going to travel with someone like Hank, you should naturally understand why he's doing the things he is. But the fact that she didn't give up on her core characteristic of being naturally a good person and recognizing that we should judge person by person, it just feels like this was such a satisfying payoff that it feels as if, holy shit, this series is something that's actually remarkable and easily could be viewed on the outside as just, we don't need to watch this, but you really do, because episodes like these, especially this episode, which is probably my favorite out of the 8, it really just feels like we had such satisfying payoff for such realistic and great character growth. This series isn't some of Mappa's best production in terms of just the general aesthetic, the overall character animation, but that doesn't feel like it's lessening the quality. It almost feels as if, with a lot of Mappa productions, they do try to make it as crisp and clean and just fluid as possible. But with To the Abandoned Sacred Beast, it almost feels like we still have that same level of polish, but it's just put on the overall directing instead. There's a shot in this episode when the siren is singing her song in her dying moments and she's not attacking anymore. She's simply just singing her song in this very destroyed building, and it slowly but surely starts transitioning back to the past where it's beautiful and people are listening to her singing. That overall transition in directing choice was just so beautiful and captured such a depressing moment overall. It does feel like this is equal to Mappa's directing as of late, if you look at some of their best projects as of recent memory over the past, say, year of anime. But even though it doesn't have the most stunning of animation or the most stunning of just character details at times, it doesn't feel like this is a lesser Mappa production. It does feel like they're still giving it their all, just in a different way, and actually gives To the Abandoned Sacred Beast its own flair and style that you actually don't want to compare it to other series that they've done recently, and that's actually a good thing. This episode is my favorite because it felt so personal and like a reward for all the episodes that we've watched and followed Nancy with. This is a character who naturally goes against the common military thought of, okay, once again, everyone wants to kill the incarnates. We've seen that with Hank, and now we see it with the military. But she naturally understands that yes, for a good amount of them, they probably do have to be put down, and she's not afraid to pull the trigger anymore. She will do that. But when she meets someone like this siren, why do you have to kill her? She's really posing no threat. She just wants to sing. She is honestly a victim who used to be this popular singer, and then she learned that, oh, she has this ability, and then she was forced to kill on the battlefield, and when she returned home, she was viewed as a monster. Like, she's the victim here, not the one who is inflicting pain. Even when you see her go on her rampage after the one she cares about is killed protecting her, she doesn't even attack people. Her weapon is just a song. She puts them in a deep sleep. Obviously, you need to stop her because you can't just let people sleep forever. They will eventually die. But it's not like she's some wild beast just ripping them apart. She is just a singer. And to see the fact that Nancy kept trying to help her, and she honestly probably could have. There wasn't gunshots there. I truly believe Nancy would have been able to calm her down and maybe send her off somewhere else where there aren't people and things like that, and maybe she could visit her. There would have been a decent chance. I would have even said 75% chance that this wouldn't have had to end up in a death, but the fact that the shot was fired and then she retreated and then even more shots, it was just, this was the closest I got to feeling like truly just sad and just like, oh my god, like it just made you feel empty to see that death, because this was a character who you didn't think needed to die, but you understood the justification for the military and why they have to do this, especially for the leader of this force who is being manipulated by his father, who has to fight his brother. It just feels like he has a lot on his plate and he doesn't see the compassionate side in just different viewpoints from someone like Nancy, and understands that this is what he has to do, almost similar to Hank and what he was doing up to the point of Nancy joining him. It just feels like this episode, we're doing something here. We're doing something interesting and unique, and the fact that we don't have Hank for the past couple of episodes, if you watch after the credits, we do get Hank's perspective again and seeing that he is struggling and it's not looking too good for him. But up to this point, we've been focusing on Nancy, and it doesn't feel like the show dipped in quality after we removed who would have appeared to be the main focal character and we switched to Nancy, and it felt like she was able to kind of hold on to the torch, pass the torch along, and it didn't suffer. It actually did a classic To the Abandoned Sacred Beast style episode, and it was absolutely remarkable. And even though I wouldn't go as far to say this is my favorite of this season, it's a very strong season of anime with a lot of great shows. This is one of the series, one of the 3 series or so that I constantly think about, like, I can't wait for Monday. I can't wait to watch this show, because it should fail in theory, but it just keeps delivering a solid episode at worst, and when we get episodes like these, we get a fantastic one. It actually felt like the character writing was just exceptionally strong. We felt a strong emotional connection from the war to what happened, and you feel like the ones that are getting hunted are the victims, and yes, some of them do lose control, and you can understand why the thought process is, well, if they do lose control, they would easily destroy a town, if not the world, and it's understandable why they're kind of putting the needs of the many versus the needs of the few. But it doesn't change the fact that when we get it from Nancy's perspective, it just feels like we don't know the right answer. Should we really trust a siren to be able to stay in her current form of just wanting to sing, or will there come a point where she is just in the ocean and she sends sailors to their doom at some point in time? It's something that there is no clear right or wrong answer, and the fact that you have one of our main characters who is a part of this crew bound and bent on killing his comrades, and then we have a military equally trying to do that but also kill Hank, and then you have Nancy who shouldn't be a part of this crew but also is understanding that sometimes they do have to be put down, but at the same time they don't always. It's just such a conflicting moral dilemma, and that's why I absolutely eat the show up week by week. I love the way they detailed the siren song, both her natural singing voice, which was just beautiful and pleasant to listen to, but then the way she would knock people out. I just love how they made it monstrous, but they also made it beautiful, as if you were getting intoxicated alongside the people, and you understood how that voice could just capture you and just knock you out, control you, and make you do whatever it is she wanted. I've seen a couple of anime where they've tried to do kind of that siren song and how they would detail it, and this was actually one of the most memorable that I can recall. It just felt like it had the proper effects, the proper layering techniques, so it made it sound dangerous, but it also made it sound beautiful. And then when you got to actually hear her natural singing voice again in her monstrous form, it was just simply beautiful and wonderful. And I don't think many people are going to have issues with how they detailed, stylized, but also portrayed a siren's voice, and it was simply wonderful. There is so much anime about this show that is just like, okay, you compare it to this, you compare it to that. Oh, it's kind of a unique here, but it's still just an anime monster of the week. Oh, we got this military story, so maybe it's not so monster of the week anymore. But by the time the episodes wrap up, you think, no, this is To the Abandoned Sacred Beast. It's not just that cliche show of the season. It actually has strong emotional writing, and when the directing needs to crank it up a notch, it really gets you in the feels, as people like to say. This was just great. I was like, okay, I'm excited. The preview last week had me excited, but then to see the execution, I'm like, my girl Nancy, I just love how myself and many were like, okay, she really needs to get out of this mindset of everyone has to be saved. But no, she doesn't. Her mindset was so important at this episode 8 mark to show us that not everyone is too far gone. And even if they do maybe have to be put down, do they really have to be mowed down by guns? Because why couldn't you give her a peaceful death, something that would let her rest in peace? She probably would have went along with that. And I love that. This show is just doing so much right, and besides some production missteps here and there, I don't look at this show as something that's really that flawed. It really does feel like it knows what it's doing. It's adapting a solid source material, it's making liberties to do its own thing, and in my opinion, it's becoming something that is just simply memorable, and I hope it goes out with a bang with its final 4 episodes. What did everyone think, though? For manga readers, anime originals like myself, what did you think of this episode? Was it your favorite episode like it was mine? Did it do something you really loved or something you may not have really appreciated? Whatever you're feeling, let me know down in that comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, though, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new. So until next time, everyone, please take care. Have a good one.